Luffy is about to be sent to the moon with Imu Sama's Uranus whilst Garp is gone. According to the newspapers, which have started circulating around the world, he is missing in action from Fullalead Island. In Fuchsia Village, everyone is worried as they are pretty much Garp's family. However, the mayor has seen our last chapter review and knows Garp is him, so the citizens shouldn't worry at all about their hero. We also get to see Makino's baby laugh at Luffy's photo in the newspapers. It's like laughing at an older brother. I mean, Shanks was like a father figure to Luffy, and the kid is literally Shanks' kid, if you know what I mean. No way bro spent a year in Fuchsia Village and didn't tap Makino, okay?
It's facts! It's facts! It's not facts. These facts are not facts.
However, the residents of East Blue, and honestly the whole world, have another problem on their hands. Earthquakes and tsunamis are ravaging the whole world. The quake on this day is said to be the deadliest natural disaster the planet had ever seen in history. And all of this was caused after the disappearance of Lulusia Kingdom. Turns out that getting rid of a giant island in the middle of the sea has caused the water levels of the world to rise by 1 meter. Even in Kanbaka Kingdom, the beaches are being engulfed with many islands submerged because of this. Fuchsia Village is also suffering from this massive flood. Now, normally, if an island is missing, then the sea levels should actually fall, not rise, as the water will spread across to where the island once was. However, Oda in chapter 1089 reveals the aftermath of Imu's weapon on Lulusia. We learned that the island was not the only thing that was zapped out of existence. Rather, it was even the space beneath it, which left this massive hole, effectively creating a waterfall in the middle of the sea. If you didn't notice, this is exactly like Enies Lobby. Not just the gaping hole or waterfall, but even the rise in sea level around its vicinity. The whole concept of Enies Lobby looks unnatural, as though it was man-made. Along with many theorists, including Yuderon, Ohara, and ourselves, had believed that Enies Lobby was once part of the Ancient Kingdom along with Long Ring Longland Island. However, it was broken apart centuries ago when Imu first stole Uranus from the ancient civilization and used it against them. This coincides with the history of Aqua Laguna, where centuries ago, Water 7 used to be on dry land until the rise of the sea level. But the biggest reveal from this parallel between Lulusia and Enies Lobby is that the kingdom isn't actually destroyed. Rather, it has been teleported elsewhere, like how Jaya and Long Ring Longland were relocated away from Enies Lobby. This would even explain why Jaya is located in a random sea with high-pressured knock-up streams all around. Naturally, no island would ever form in these conditions. Like, anytime an island forms, they would just get knocked up, you know? It was as though Jaya shouldn't have been there in the first place. Long Ring Longland Island is also a whole different conversation, as we believe it's not just part of the Ancient Kingdom, but also where Joyboy went full-on Toon World, changing the very composition of the island. Another evidence for this is every time Lulusia Kingdom has been mentioned, no one has claimed it to be destroyed. Everyone from Sabo to even the narrator of this chapter say that it has vanished. We all know that in One Piece, if you don't see people dead on the ground with a hole in their chest, they are not dead. Even freaking Pound somehow survived a massive explosion, okay? So Oda having the balls to genocide an entire country of innocents just doesn't make sense. This is One Piece. But Uranus having the power to teleport whatever it shoots at would make sense, as it being one of the ancient weapons would fit right in with the theme of not being created to cause destruction and chaos, but rather to help people. The Ancient Kingdom was the beacon of unity, and Joyboy with the power of Nika was the ambassador of freedom. No way they would have a weapon that would kill the masses, okay? Rather, the importance of these weapons is purely for transportation, as Joyboy's primary goal was to create a utopia where all races could live. Pluton is a giant ship which could be used to transport people across the seas or even underground, as its location is literally under a volcano in a lava bed at Wano. Poseidon is the commander of all the Sea Kings who can be used to teleport people, merfolk, under the seas. And Uranus, being named after the god of the skies, is used to teleport things across large distances on the air, maybe even off the skies of the known world, and bring other civilizations to Earth from the moon and vice versa. Like, just look at the celestial dragons and their getup, okay? Like, they're wearing spacesuits, and they see the people of Earth as just subhuman, like they're above them. It's like they're a different species. They can't even breathe the air that the normies are breathing, okay? So that's a little sus, you know? This then brings us to the idea that Lulusia could have been relocated to the moon. So now that we have established why the Lulusia Kingdom isn't destroyed, let's go over how the Straw Hats will also suffer the same fate. The entire story of One Piece is filled with inversions and parallels to previous arcs and events, especially the happenings of post-time skip arcs. For example, Alabasta's parallel is Dressrosa, where there is a kingdom to be saved, ruled by an unjust dictator, scheming and making the people suffer. And the task at hand is to rescue the princesses in Vivi, Viola, and Rebecca. Basically, Dressrosa is the result of Alabasta if Crocodile had succeeded. The Straw Hats didn't let the tyrannical rule begin in Alabasta, a parallel to them stopping the rule of Doflamingo, which was already started. Similarly, Egghead Island is an inversion of Water 7 for the CP9 agents like Kaku and Lucci. These guys, similar to the Straw Hats, are now trying to break into a government island to capture Robin. The CP0 agents are introduced as bad guys in this arc, but then the twist is that they are the ones who get betrayed by Stussy, just like how they betrayed Iceberg while masquerading as the good guys for years at Galley Law. It's a complete inverse situation, and now, if we go backwards, then the next step would be Skypiea. The story is one big circle. Similarly, we are yet to see an inverse or a parallel of Sabaody, where the Straw Hats managed to beat up the world government threat. Instead of getting teleported separately across the world, they're instead teleported together up to the moon. Huh? Now, why would it be the moon, you ask? Well, throughout the story of One Piece, the moon has played a crucial part. From it being on the crest of the Kozuki clan's logo, the Minx's Shillong transformation being fueled by moonlight, and even Nolan's ship had a freaking moon. Especially since Oda had already put a focus on it through Enel's cover story, which showed us that the moon had a civilization back in the day, and even features space pirates in the form of the automata robots. Furthermore, Wapol being introduced to the story is another key to this puzzle. The reason for him to be present is of course because of his fruit, the Waku Waku no Mi. This fruit has the ability to create any material or metal by transmuting an already eaten metal by Wapol. After blasting Lulusia, Imu likely does not have enough fuel to zap another island, but targeting Sunny might be possible. Vivi, along with Wapol, will end up temporarily joining the Straw Hats for protection after Morgans is done with them. They would also get caught up in the beam and get teleported to the moon, where Frankie, with his big brain, could use Wapol's metal alloys to create a spaceship which can bring the Straw Hats and the rest of the trapped citizens of Lulusia back to Earth. Lulusia being teleported to the moon and then the Straw Hats getting there only for Luffy to help bring them down would also be similar to the promise Joyboy made to the Mermaid Princess 800 years ago to bring them to the surface. But Luffy, unlike Joyboy, will not fail at this promise. And that is because of Enel, who is conveniently there with his electric powers to fuel this rocket ship. Bro had already made an airship that got him to the moon, so with sufficient metals from Wapol and Frankie's brain, this will be child's play. And we all know Enel just would want Luffy to get off his verth. He likes to be the sole supreme leader of this land. Also, the post-time skip has to address the civilizations on the moon eventually. What better way for Oda to do this than make a mini arc with the Straw Hats on the moon? But coming back to the chapter, the Marines have surrounded Egghead Island completely, with Kuzan taking out one of Vegapunk's Sea Beast weapon with ease. He states that he does not want to cause more damage to the island, so he calls and requests Sentomaru to surrender, which he of course does not. Sentomaru tries to guilt-trip Kizaru by reminding him of the good old days, where Vegapunk researched the Admiral's powers to develop the Pacifista laser. So he's shocked that Kizaru himself would come down to kill him. However, Kizaru is having none of that. He cannot do anything but to follow orders, as Egghead Island was used to research the Void Century under Vegapunk, which in the One Piece world is a death sentence. Honestly, this dude is a waste man, bro. You got your friend Sentomaru, your nephew. You got Vegapunk, who probably helped you since childhood, as we see them hanging out. And you're like, oh, I'm just a cog in the machine. Oh, I'm a corporate slave, you guys. I can't do nothing. I gotta kill you. Shut up. We then get to see at least 100 Marine battleships in this chapter, boasting a total of 9 Vice Admirals and approximately 30,000 freaking soldiers. The Marines are not holding back this time. It's obvious that the Gorosei and Imu are not only making their move, but are also starting to get desperate. The awakening of the Hito Itonomi and Luffy's Gear 5 Wanted poster has made them their pants and get out of their comfort zone. To a point where they are ready to make Egghead Island a Marineford Part 2. And this is because Vegapunk's research on the Void Century might pose a threat to Imu's current reign, but Luffy's return as a Joy Boy makes things even more complicated. So killing off Vegapunk might just be a means to an end to hide their real target, Joy Boy D Luffy. But I digress. Getting back to Egghead, it is revealed that York is the one who actually sent Mother Flame to the world government. We learned in chapter 1086 that Vegapunk was the one who invented Mother Flame. However, Imu wasn't saying that the weapon was Vegapunk's invention, rather he is referring to the fuel. Vegapunk in chapter 1068 teased this idea of unlimited energy, and of course, he had created a prototype to this power. We alluded that this would be brought forth with a form of a renewable method, which this chapter confirms through the factory being an Egghead. Imu has had this Ancient Weapon Uranus since the Void Century, however, until Vegapunk created the fuel for it, it couldn't be used. Just like how an ancient energy source was required for the robot at Egghead Island, Uranus is the same way. Bringing us back to Mother Flame, which is Vegapunk's attempt in replicating the Ancient Kingdom's energy source. This is reinforced by the 5 elders, who when hearing Imu's decision to use Uranus, agree they have not yet seen the effectiveness of this energy source, and depending on how it performs, they will reconsider their approach at Egghead, suggesting that this is the first time this weapon is being fired with Vegapunk's Mother Flame. Thus, after experimenting with the fuel, the Gorosei decide to keep York alive so Imu can continue erasing islands. In turn, York had requested to be a celestial dragon and live the high life. But this entire call was just a setup. The Straw Hats had already taken York hostage, and this conversation was all planned. York ends the conversation screaming for help from the Gorosei, which shocks them to their core. This entire time, they were under the impression that York had already taken care of the Straw Hats using the Seraphim, and they were there as the cleanup crew, possibly forcing their hand towards an all-out war against the Straw Hats. And so, the Straw Hats decide to use York as a literal meat shield to escape Egghead. But honestly, York has a freaking Yonko crew, you got Monkey D. Luffy, you got the Hito Hito no Mi. You think a couple of Seraphims, a few CP0 fathers who Luffy already took care of, free time skip, are gonna do anything? Like, what were these guys thinking? How do you get duped by that? He's a freaking Yonko, Emperor of the Sea, Monkey D. Luffy. Put some respect on his name. If you want to see more respect on Luffy, then check out our video where we put Luffy in a 1v1 situation against every single Yonko.